My name is James Williams Jr., and this is Kung Fu Heaven number 2. So if you've just watched my other video, then you know that I've talked about DC Comics. I've put it in the most positive light as I could because I love DC Comics, but I'm not as much in love with DC Comics as I am with Marvel Comics. So in that, shall we begin? I will give a shout out to the DC comic Jonah Hex because if not for that, I would have never learned how to read. And then I want to give a bigger shout out to Stan Lee and Marvel because they won me over. Simple as that. They won me over for the simple fact that my first Marvel comic was a Spider-Man comic book. And then I read Secret Wars. And before that, I got into the X-Men. X-Men really played a fair role in the Secret Wars comic book. Now, they didn't play as big a role as some of the other heavy hitters, but they were there, against the Beyonder. So, let me go down the line with what I know of Marvel. Hopefully this won't be a two-parter video, because the other video is a one-parter. It's like 19 minutes long. If you're watching that now, then you should know you have like 20 more minutes of that. If you're watching this now, then when you get to the end, you'll find out if this is a one-parter or a two-parter. So specifically, I started off reading Spider-Man, Peter Parker. At the time when I learned how to read, I could relate to Peter Parker. I was fucking Peter Parker. I had a lust for science. I wanted to be Spider-Man in every way, shape, or form outside of going out and trying to actually experiment with Spider-Man. I also learned it at 5 years old when I was still rocking DC Comics. Black superheroes with curly hair cannot fly just because you are the greatest American hero fan, which greatest American hero is a property of DC. Just wanted to throw that out there. Or at least I've always been told it was property of DC. I don't know for sure. But anyway, moving back over to Marvel now. So I read the hell out of Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man got Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Now there were cartoons before that. I'm not old enough to remember them. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was my favorite of all time of all the Spider-Man cartoons. They didn't get all the toys. The only person that got toys was Spider-Man because the toys came out, the cartoon came out during like the Secret War era. So when the toys came out, you could get Spider-Man, Iron Man, Wolverine, and Captain America. That was it. And the bad guys, you can get Magneto, Kang the Conqueror, and 2 other bad guys, and I have no idea who the fuck they are, and I can't remember. Anyway, sorry for the language. So once I discovered Spider-Man, Spider-Man led me to the X-Men. Once I discovered the X-Men, I kind of threw Spider-Man on the back burner and just only read X-Men comics until I discovered the Guardians of the Galaxy and the New Warriors. When I discovered the Guardians of the Galaxy and the New Warriors, they all have a connection to Spider-Man and the X-Men. Now, why did I go back to Spider-Man and the X-Men? The thing that stopped me from Spider-Man was the Clone Wars. And then they started going into alternate Earths and dimensions and timelines and stuff like that, which again, like I said, I don't know who did it first between Marvel and DC. I'm kind of glad they did it, and I'm kind of not, because basically interdimensions, alternate timelines, alternate universes, and all that shit is basically, I can sum that up in one fucking phrase from the Army. It's a clusterfuck. It's just that simple. It's a fucking clusterfuck. Alright? Now, why did I put it that way? Because it's the truth. It's a fucking clusterfuck. If you got Spider-Man from Earth 2 or Spider-Man 99, 2099 coming into Earth 1 where he never existed and trying to do things, and you have Miles Morales, like I said, clusterfuck. Alright? Same thing with the X-Men. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to explain to you guys why I haven't picked up an X-Men book in almost 10, 11 years. 2010, 2008, somewhere between 2008 and 2010. I stopped reading the X-Men because they kept killing off my favorites like Colossus. They started killing off my other favorites like Psylocke, the Asian one. And they started killing off Wolverine and other people. It's like they constantly killed off my favorites. And that got to the point where I got tired of my favorite heroes getting a legacy virus or something else happening. Then they put X-Men against Cable, and it was just all kinds of crazy shit going on. And I got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And then as I'm getting back into it, it totally fucked the Marvel Universe over again because Scarlet Witch destroys the 616 over miscarriaging or something really fucking phenomenal happened, and then I just had enough. Not to mention the writer's strike also made me stop reading comics because when they had that big clusterfuck of fighting Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane and everyone else that works for Image over their characters that they built. So Image popped out with Wildcats, Youngbloods, their Crown Jewel Spawn, Savage Dragon, Cyberforce. There's a couple of more. We'll get to that in a whole different video and stuff. But anyway, you know, there was a lot of things that led me away from Marvel because Marvel tends to throw a curveball and stuff. When a story gets good, it's getting really good, it's starting to get too good, and then they totally give you the finger, which is why I kind of stopped. Now, when the announcement was coming that they were changing the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't know what the hell they did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but they brought in Star-Lord's team. Now, for those who don't know, Star-Lord's probably existed a little bit longer than Major Victory, but he was always a solo act, and Gamora and all of them kind of started off as bad guys. And I'm pretty sure that there was a rivalry between Howard the Duck and Rocket Raccoon, you know. And then when they brought Nova into the Spider-Man cartoon, I was thinking it was Richard Rider, but it wasn't. It was the little Latin kid. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't the guy Night Thrasher threw off the fucking off the building to make sure his Nova powers would reactivate, because Richard Rider was supposed to be the supreme being of all the Novas for the Nova Corps, and it just all went to hell in a handbasket. Major Victory from one world came to the 616 to tell the other Major Victory not to do this, and he did it anyway, and he wound up becoming Justice, and then later on he would go back to being Marvel Boy, and then he'd go back to being Justice. He had some serious crises going on while he was dating Firestar, and then he would wind up later going to become Major Victory. But you don't get that far in the New Warriors because by the time you get to the part where he switches his name to Justice, some shit's going on with Dwayne Taylor, who is no longer about to be Night Thrasher because he's about to die. And Rage from the Avengers became a member of the New Warriors. Then there was like 13 New Warriors, and then there was 2 teams of New Warriors with a total of 25 people or better. Because Namor's clone of a cousin, Namorita, was in the New Warriors because she was like my main hot chick that I liked until Turbo came along. And Turbo, she's a hot Asian chick, and it was awesome. And she had to share a costume with some little nerdy white dude. It was just really fucked up, but it was a good comic. You know, if you didn't read the New Warriors, Silver Sable, or stuff like that, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. Silver Sable went one-on-one with the Punisher. They almost killed each other. Silver Sable didn't. She backed off because she knew that if she killed him, he was going to kill her too. It was a pretty good comic. She went one-on-one with Deathlock. They wound up teaming up. For those who don't know, Deathlock was also on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We don't know why they took him off the story, but apparently him and Jay August, the guy from Angel, the black guy from Angel, I guess he got a contract on a different show and just they didn't decide that the storyline could bring Deathlock back. So that kind of did that in, and Deathlock was a good character for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I'm, I guess, the only one that really liked it. But, you know, then they brought in the Ruiz brothers. I didn't hear them until Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I had to go Google that shit. But for the most part, the only Ghost Rider I ever knew was Dan Karish. Clutch. Dan Body. And I didn't know that the Night Stalkers, because I read Night Stalkers before I ever read a fucking Ghost Rider book. And when I found out that the original Night Stalker leader, Johnny Blaze, was actually the original Ghost Rider, I was like, what the fuck? So, like I said, my Marvel history is a little bit more complex. In fact, it's so complex that I can't really name everybody because I don't remember what Blade's actual name was. I used to know it. And it's kind of like Michael Morbius. He just goes by Morbius, and Morbius has been one of those characters that started off as a bad guy, they made him a good guy, then he went back to be a bad guy. Same thing with Venom, who started off as a bad guy, who went to a bad guy, who went back to a bad guy, and then Eddie Brock was anti-Venom, who became a hero. I don't know what the hell they did with him after that, because I know he got married when he was Venom, and somehow or another his wife got the symbiote, and they would take turns being Venom, and then Venom became a complete hero, and then he joined up with Silver Sable and her team, and then he went away. And then next thing you know, he got married and he escaped the symbiote. We don't know what happened with the symbiote and his wife. Some bullshit went down. And then next thing you know, Venom was trying to reconnect with Eddie Brock, and an anti-Venom bust out. So there was a big fight in the police station. It was fucking awesome. Hopefully you guys know where I'm at. But that probably shit is now retconned or candid or whatever the fucking word is. This shit probably doesn't exist anymore. So basically, I have those books for absolutely fucking nothing. Now, the Spider-Man Clone Wars with Ben Reilly and Kane and Peter Parker and neither one of them motherfuckers knowing who the fuck the real Spider-Man is, and then having the baby Mayday Parker and all kinds of other stuff. It just kept going on and on and on. The X-Men were fairly simple. You have Cable. You have Nathan Dre Spring, Charles Xavier Summers, who would be called Cable later. You have the 5 members of X Factor at that time. Cyclops, Marvel Girl, a.k.a. Jean Grey and Scott Summers. And then you'd have Beast, a.k.a. Henry McCoy. And you had Iceman, a.k.a. Bobby Drake. And you had Angel, or Archangel at the time, Warren Worthington III. Simple, right? And they worked with Valerie Cooper. She was like the agent that worked for the government that sanctioned all of their missions. But what people didn't know was that X Factor itself would go and kidnap mutants. But in the guise of kidnapping, they were actually rescuing the mutants, which is what led to the Inferno saga with Madeline Pryor and the X-Men who became legends that died at the hand of an X-Man, wound up going after them, fighting each other. Okay, so let me go through those X-Men while we're on it. Psylocke, Elizabeth Braddock, twin sister of Brian Braddock. You know him from Excalibur as Captain Britain. Then we have Wolverine. At the time, they only called him Logan because he didn't have a legit past. Everything was wiped out. Then you have Havoc, Alex Summers. You have Madeline Pryor, who would become the Goblin Queen. And you had Storm, or Earl Monroe. I'm not saying it right. I've never been able to say it right. Jubilee hadn't joined on yet, but she had been tagging along. And you have Rogue, who didn't have a legitimate past before they gave her a name of Marie. Then you have Dazzler, Allison Bray, and then you had Longshot. So, why did they die? Forge had to get them to sacrifice themselves to go against one of his mystical warrior enemies, who was a shaman from whatever tribe he came from, because Forge is Cheyenne. Now, moving on, let's go to New Mutants. My second favorite team of all, because New Mutants would become X-Force, led by Cable. Alright, so let's go there. First you had Samuel Guthrie, a.k.a. Cannonball. He was a field leader, along with Ilyana Rasputin, who was only 4 years old but spent a couple of years in limbo and came out as a 14-year-old. His best friend is Kitty Pryde, whose nickname is Shadowcat or Sprite, depending on how far your history go back, and provided that they don't retcon that shit, who was in love with her brother, who was way too over her, and they had a sexual encounter that was illegal, but we won't go there when she was an X-Man. Oh, we're still on New Mutants, so don't forget that. We had Renee St. Clair, a.k.a. Wolfsbane. We had Doug Ramsey. His code name skips me. I can't remember it right now. We had Mirage, Danielle Moonstar. We had Karma, Zhang Yan Man. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that right, but she was from Vietnam. Now I'm going through this because of the simple. We had Roberto da Costa. His name is Sunspot, and then we had Warlock. He was an alien. All right, so there was like 9 members of the New Mutants, and like 2 of them died. So, and then they all started splintering off, and Danielle Moonstar had Pegasus, so Mirage would eventually become a Valkyrie, and then somewhere down the line would find her way back into X-Force, and the Exterminators would be Rusty. I can't remember his name. Excuse me. His name was Rusty. His code name was Rusty. His last name was Collins. Skids, I can't remember her name, but Skids was her code name. I don't know why her name was Skids. Richter, I can't remember his name, but Richter was his code name. He has earthquake powers. And then there was Tabitha Smith, and Leech, and his brother, and I want to say the kid was Amadeus Cho, but it's not Amadeus Cho. It's a Japanese kid instead of a Chinese kid, and he could fix things. And he turned his wheelchair into an ultimate sled, and he would fly the Exterminators around. Exterminators would eventually join the New Mutants, which eventually would spawn into X-Force. By combining these team members, Leech and his brother went back to the Morlocks, so they went underground. You have no clue what happens to the little Japanese guy from Exterminators, and he basically came along for the ride, but he was a mutant, but his powers was like Forge. They could build everything and anything by just thinking about it. He could build it. I'm at the 14-minute mark. This probably is going to be a 2-part video. Maybe in a 3-part. Like I said, my Marvel knowledge is infinite. It's probably all going to be retcon now, but at that same thing, you know, I'm specifically doing X teams because those are the guys that I relate to the most. Alright, so then eventually X-Force with the New Mutants 100 was like the last New Mutants. In comes Shatterstar, who's the son of Dazzler and Longshot from the television dimension in which Mojo 2 is in charge instead of Mojo 1. And then there's a battle going on there, but Mojo 1 took over, so Mojo 2 versus Mojo 1 plus Shatterstar's on Mojo 2's team to get rid of Mojo 1, who's trying to kill Longshot and Dazzler, and Shatterstar came through time to fix this problem. Alright, are you up to speed? Even though all this shit's probably retcon now. And then Warpath, aka James Proudstar, came to kill Professor Charles Xavier, who he believes is at fault for killing his brother, who died on a plane with Banshee trying to destroy one of Xavier's enemies in his very first mission when he was going by the name of Thunderbird. Now, eventually, Warpath would become Thunderbird, and then go back to Warpath, and then go back to Thunderbird. Don't ask. It has nothing to do with American Eagle because he's in a class all by himself. He's not even an Apache. But Warpath and Thunderbird were Apaches. Mirage, aka Danielle Moonstar, was a Cheyenne like Forge. Scalp Hunter's a Cheyenne. He's the bad guy. He's one of the Marauders who also attack the mutants and destroy stuff. Okay, so you have to speed on everything because when it comes down to like X-Men and stuff, they're my heroes. Colossus at one time used to stand 7'4" before he transformed into Colossus, and when he transformed into Colossus, he was still 7'4". He was bigger. He was like the biggest normal sized person because he was bigger than Juggernaut. He was bigger than the Hawk. He was bigger than the Blob. He was bigger than everybody. His name was Colossus for a reason. Then after he went to the Seas Parallax, he became 6'5" and only turned 7 foot even when he turned into Colossus. So then he was exactly the same size as the Hawk. I mean, come on, you guys, really? Why did we have to fuck over Colossus? It was bad enough that you killed his big brother, and then you killed his little sister. Then you brought his sister back, you brought his brother back, and then you killed them all again because they both got the legacy virus, but somehow or another he's immune to it. Although, if you want to go through history, the first Rasputin to die in that entire family actually was Colossus because Deathbird stabbed him through the chest with a special spear in his metal form. And Deathbird is the wife, the twin sister of the wife of Charles Xavier named Lalandra. Need I go on further with that? I can't because I've reached the 17-minute mark, so this is going to have to be a 2-part video. I'm James Williams Hughes, Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing.